Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2024 American Express Initial Research Show. I am quite under the weather, so it's going to be a shorter show this evening, but not to worry. We still have everything that you need to begin your research this week for the AmEx. Would love to hear from you all. How was your Sony? Did you have much of Grayson Murray in DFS? Much have been on. Of course, I did not have much of Keegan Bradley or any Keegan Bradley. So how was your Sony in terms of wagers in DFS? Like I said, I am quite under the weather, so I'm going to try and get through this show as best as I can. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter golf gambler and a much better golf DFS player. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You won't regret it. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and X and Instagram, where I post research every week on the PGA Tour. That'll be no different. That comes out on Mondays. So I will have something over on social media tomorrow regarding former champions, perhaps some course data for the AmEx, and a pretty interesting layout for the AmEx. If you are not familiar, this is a 3-course rota, so it is a 54-hole cut this week, and the main course will be played twice. So I'll have some course information, some former champion trends, if you will. So if you want to see that information, give me a follow over at your preferred social media site. X is where I also post my weekly betting cards and my player exposure in DFS. For the longest time today, I was ruining the fact that I did not put an outright on Russell Henley. A late bogey cost him a chance at the playoff. Kind of saved my hide on that in that regard. But I was very, very high on Russell Henley if you were here last week. So if you want to see the weekly betting cards and the players that I am most using in my DFS lineups, then give me a follow over at X as well. And then finally, for social media, Gabe's X handle is in the description. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. It's a very good way to start your week of research, and he continues throughout the week providing you with his own version of golfer form, course history, all of that. So go show Gabe some support. Follow him over on social media, on X, and subscribe to that article. It is free to do so. If you are a subscriber to his article, you're going to be able to join us in his Substack chat every Wednesday evening after calls as we continue the DFS talk over there every Wednesday evening. So go show Gabe some support and subscribe to that article. And then lastly, we're live. Chat is open. Again, want to hear from you all. How was your Sony? What are you looking forward to for the AmEx? Do we just need to find some recently sober golfers and just bet them for the rest of 2024 with Chris Kirk and Grayson Murray winning the first 2 events? So let's do our initial research for the 2024 American Express. And we start, as we always do for an initial research show, over at the GCSAA Tournament Fact Sheet. As I mentioned, there are 3 courses in the Rota this week. The main course is the Stadium course, PGA West, the Stadium course. We also have the Nicholas Tournament course and La Quinta Country Club. We are in La Quinta, California. Again, this is a 54-hole cut this week at the American Express. And then any player who makes the cut will be playing the Stadium course, the Pete Dye course, on Sunday. So right off the bat, there is one nugget of information that we can use to our advantage. We can look at Pete Dye courses as the stadium course is a Pete Dye design. Mirrors Sawgrass quite a bit in terms of hole layouts. Even PGA West has an island green. So a lot of similarities between PGA West Stadium Course and TPC Sawgrass. Of course, we are on a Pete Dye design. The Stadium Course is a par 72 that measures just under 7,200 yards. A very, very short course in terms of yardage. If you get 7,200 yard courses, a lot of times you'll have par 71s or maybe even par 70s. So we have several short holes, particularly some par 4s and par 5s that are short, and all three courses are short, under 7,200 yards. We're going to focus on the Pete Dye Stadium Course since that's going to be played twice this week for the players who make the cut. But we'll have some information, or I'll show you some information around all three courses. These are some very small greens across all three courses. The Stadium Course average green size is about 5,000 square feet. A lot of acreage of fairway, but it does narrow in landing areas for professionals off the tee. A whole lot of rough. 7 holes with water in play. And one of the big facets we're going to be looking at this week, we're going to be looking at POA. This is POA Trivialis Overseed. And so there are several courses with POA Trivialis Overseed. In fact, there are 6 of them. So let me make sure I have my notes here ready to go for that. 6 courses with POA Trivialis Overseed on the greens. Moving to the other 2 courses, we have the Nicklaus Tournament Course. Of course, it's a Jack Nicklaus design, a par 72 that measures 7,147 yards. So again, a very short course for a par 72. Now this is the one outlier in the sense that these greens are 7,000 square feet, not small. So a bit of a misnomer there for me at the beginning. A lot of fairway that again narrows in landing areas, quite a bit of rough. You have 5 holes with water in play, and you're on POA Trivialis Overseed. And then lastly, we have La Quinta Country Club. La Quinta is a Lawrence Hughes original design, so nothing to do with the architect there. 4,773 square footage on average of these greens. Very, very small greens. You see La Quinta is also a very short par 72. Does not even measure 7,100 yards. With 7 holes with water in play. POA Trivialis Overseed. So there's a look at all 3 courses and the commonalities between them. Of course, we're going to be looking at POA Trivialis on the greens. Generally speaking, we're going to be looking at small greens or have in our minds small greens as 3 of the 4 courses for the players who make the cut will have or will be played on courses with small greens. We do have a Pete Dye design, so we can take a look at some Pete Dye metrics, and all 3 courses are extremely short, none of them measuring 7,200 yards. So there's a look at the American Express from a GCSIA tournament fact sheet view. We move to Fantasy National, and there have been no field changes since the field was announced Friday afternoon. So our top performers in the past calendar year, or 12 months, in the field this week at the AmEx: Scotty Scheffler, Eric Cole, Patrick Cantley, JT Poston, Xander, Stephan Jaeger, Tom Kim, Bo Hostler, Wyndham Clark, and Sung Jae. We can look at short courses. All 3 courses are short, but this is where I want to emphasize that any data that we get from the American Express only comes from the Stadium Course. we do not have shot link at the Nicholas Tournament Course or La Quinta Country Club. So any historical metrics that we get for the American Express is only at the Stadium Course, the PGA West, the Pete Dye course. But on short courses, our top performers in 2023, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Eric Cole, Chris Kirk, Xander, Denny McCarthy, Sam Burns, Justin Thomas, Sung Jae, and Taylor Montgomery. Something else that I can just tell you, and I'll show you just very, very quickly, and we'll go into this in a little bit more detail a little bit later on in the show. This is a really, really easy tournament. Winning scores consistently reach into the mid -20s. You just have to go extremely low here to contend. So lots and lots and lots of easy rounds. And of course you see the Stadium Course where we have shot link, Bermuda with Poa Trivialis overseed. Green speeds have been listed at average. I'm not going to worry about that because I have the specific courses that have Poa Trivialis overseed. But very rarely do you get difficult rounds or even average rounds. In the past, looks like 2 to 3 years, majority of rounds have been easy, and then going even further back, 2020, 2019, 2018, majority of the rounds have been easy. Now, 2021 looks like it did step up in a little bit of difficulty. But mostly we're looking at a very, very easy tournament, an easy layout for professionals with these 3 courses. So, with that, we're going to take a look at the easy scoring relative to par filter. And our top performers when rounds are easy the past calendar year: Alex Noren, Eric Cole, Xander, Scotty Scheffler, Doug Ghim, Adam Hadwin, Chris Kirk, Patrick Cantlay, JT Poston, and Stefan Jaeger. Now this might update considering that the Sony just finished about a half an hour ago. So obviously those statistics are not in here, so this might update and rearrange a little bit tomorrow. But for our purposes, this just gives us a good idea of who plays shorter courses, easier courses well. Okay, let's move to the course breakdown in Fantasy National. Get a feel for some lengths of holes, the ease of the tournament, and all that. And again, we're going to focus just on the Stadium Course, since that is the course that everybody will play on Sunday if they make the cut. So looking at the Stadium Course, the majority of your toughest holes are the par 3s. Now you do have a fairly easy par 3, the 4th, but I want you to notice the other par 3s here. Par 3 6th, second most difficult hole. Par 3 13th is the most difficult hole. The aforementioned Island Green, 165, the third most difficult hole. Par 3s are a pretty darn big factor, but even so, the most difficult hole, very difficult, plays to a quarter of a shot or almost a quarter of a shot over par. But you very quickly get into the single digits in terms of hundredths, 800ths, 800ths, 700ths, whereas you have the par 5 8th plays to a half a shot under par, a decent eagle rate at 2.6%, 2.5 here on the par 5 16th, plays to about a third of a shot or a little bit better than a third of a shot over par. Ooh, hopefully my camera focuses in there. With it being blurred, that's about how I feel. Plays to a third of a shot under par here, a quarter of a shot, quarter of a shot. So a lot of birdie opportunities here at PGA West in the Stadium Course. We look at average strokes gained by shot type. Strokes gained approach is a major factor for a Pete Dye design. You would expect nothing different. 1.25 per round for your top 10s. Now the putting is somewhat important. It's almost to one full shot per round. Off the tee and around the green, lagging quite a bit. Although off the tee doesn't look like it in terms of the height of the bar, but off the tee does kind of outweigh the around the green fairly heavily. I move to top fives, a whole lot in in approach. The putting does reach one full shot, and you see how much the off the tee jumps. And then for our winners, you would expect winners of the tournament to be making putts, but this is a ball striking course. That's what Pete Dye designs generally are. You see the amount of strokes gained in approach, a whole lot of strokes gained in off the tee as well, especially for the stadium course. So we're going to be looking at a lot of ball striking metrics this week. Approach, off the tee, things of that nature. Looking at average strokes gained by hole by par. Look, with 4 par 5s, and they're all generally pretty short, professionals are going to take advantage of them. But don't discount the par 3s, because they are some of the most difficult holes on the course. In fact, the 3 hardest holes on the course are 3 of the par 3s. So par 3s are going to have a decent amount of weight moving forward, I envision, this week. Moving to the top 5s, much the same. Par 4s start to gain a little bit, but the par 5s are still leading. And then looking for your winners, it's about the par 3s. So we've had a couple of courses, the Century and the Sony, where the par 3s, we didn't look at them at all in our final mixed condition model. That is not the case this week. The par 3s are going to have pretty decent amount of weight, at least in the thought process early on this week. All right, moving to hole compositions. We have 2 from 150 to 175, 1 from 175 to 200, and 1 very long par 3 at 223. We have a drivable par 4 that is, I believe, at 3. Well, now I'm going to have to look at it. 346, but it is drivable due to contour and the contour of the hole and whatnot. You see it plays to about 0.15 of a shot under par. I mean, it's a very good scoring opportunity. So 1 drivable par 4, and then a very balanced amount of par 4s the rest of the way. 3 each from 350 to 4, 400 to 450, and 450 to 5. Par 5s, you have 1, 2, and 1. 1 short, 2 medium length, and 1 long that measures exactly at 600 yards. Approach shot distribution. Majority of your approach shots here come from 150 to 175. However, in relation to other tour courses, you also have a lot of 75 to 100 approaches. So that's why we'll be looking at the proximities. We always look in the proximities in the Data Dive show, figure out if there's a range that will perhaps show us that is most important through the data. Historic cut line, again, remember these are 3-day cuts, 54-hole cuts, but even so, you've seen it be as low as -9. Generally is in this -6 range. I was at -7 last year. So easy tournament. And you can see that emphasized in the amount of scores that are under par. 23.5% birdies versus 11% bogeys. A few doubles just due to the fact that there is water on a few of the holes at PGA West. But so many birdie opportunities here. Driving accuracy less than the average tour course or tour event. That is not to say that it is very difficult to drive here. The rough is not difficult to play out of. So players, as they have at the Century, at the Sony, they just worry about more so in distance as opposed to fairway most of the time. The green and regulation percentage, even though these are smaller greens, they're actually higher here, which again speaks to the ease of the tournament. This is a putting contest a lot of times. And then scrambling percentage is very, very easy here, as you can see. 63, almost 64% successful scrambling percentage here versus 57.5 at the average tour event. These greens are small, so not a lot of three putts. Distance is less. That is due to the fact that some of these holes do have some strategy to them that you can lay back and leave yourself with a wedge number as opposed to pushing it for the green. But even though the driving accuracy is lower, generally speaking, I would think that players kind of push for distance, even though graphically it's not showing that here. These fairways just they don't seem to be too important because this rough is not difficult to play out of. And then proximity, you would expect with an easy tournament with small greens, it's going to be closer than the average tour event. 28.1 here versus 29.1 essentially, the average tour event. And we'll take a look at very quickly at La Quinta and Nicklaus tournament course. I'll give you a quick snapshot here. 211, 133. Let's take a look at the other courses here at the American Express. Get a feel for some of the holes that tend to be, or the range of holes. So again, with these par threes, we have 2 from 150 to 175, 1 from 175 to 200, and 1 from 200 to 225. So this is an exact mirror of the PGA West course. Now we don't have any drivable par fours per se, none from 0 to 350, but 3 par fours from 350 to 4, 4 from 400 to 450, and then 3 from 450 to 5. So a bevy, I mean just a lot of short par fours in those first 2 courses. And then the Nicklaus tournament course has 3 extremely short par 5s, 500 to 550. And then lastly, La Quinta, much the same. La Quinta. You have 1 par 3 from 150 to 175. Most of the par 3s fall from 200 to 225 at La Quinta. But look at the par 4s. You have 4 from 350 to 4, 4 from 400 to 450. So all 3 of these courses are emphasizing the 350 to 4 and 400 to 450 par 4s. And then at La Quinta, every single one of your par 5s, every single one, measures 500 to 550 on the scorecard. So 4 of the 4 at La Quinta, 3 of the 4 at Nicklaus tournament course, and then 1 of the 4 at the PGA West, the Pete Dye course. So at least in the beginning thought process, probably looking at a 5, just focused on 500 to 550 in the par 5 range. So let me bring back the stadium course. We're going to move back to the players in the field this week. We're just going to look at some high-level overview type statistics here with no filters. We saw that this is a ball striking course, so I'm going to look at off the tee and approach. Top off the tee players in the past calendar year in the field this week: Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Garrick Higgo, Kevin Yu, Doug Gim, Keith Mitchell, Johnny Vegas, Tyler Duncan, Stephan Jaeger, and Siwoo Kim. Our top approach players: Scotty Scheffler, Xander, Sam Ryder, Adam Schenk, Mark Hubbard, Alex Smalley, Eric Cole, Aaron Rai, Patrick Cantlay, and Ches Reavie. Now, you'll have to give me a moment as I am going to need to select some specific courses here as we look for Poa Trivialis Overseed. So in alphabetical order, the first one is Harbour Town, the host of the RBC Heritage. So Harbour Town is base Bermuda with Poa Trivialis Overseed, We also have Innisbrook, which is the host of the Valspar, the Copperhead course. Quail Hollow, the very difficult course for the Wells Fargo. Quail Hollow, I think it's that one. TPC San Antonio, which is the host of the Valero Texas Open. TPC San Antonio. TPC Sawgrass also has a base Bermuda with Poa Trivialis overseed. And then lastly, TPC Scottsdale, the host of the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So those 6 courses are regular courses on the PGA Tour that have Poa Trivialis overseed. There are a couple others if you want to dig for some more stats. The Austin Country Club, where the match play used to be played, it is not on the calendar this year, but Austin Country Club also had Poa Trivialis overseed. And then the Zurich Classic, which is the team event at TPC Louisiana, it also has Poa Trivialis overseed. You're going to have to go far back into the record books or the years if you want to see individual statistics for TPC Louisiana. But those 6 courses are regular stops on the PGA Tour. So, our top putters on Poa Trivialis overseed, I'm going to back this all the way out to 2019, the beginning of 2019, just so that we have enough rounds for everybody. Our top putters on Poa Trivialis overseed: Matt Kuchar, Sam Ryder, Sam Burns, Daniel Berger, who is making his long-awaited return to tournament golf off of his injury. Taylor Montgomery, Billy Horschel, Alex Noren, Chad Ramey, Scott Stallings, Justin Suh, and Troy Merritt are your top 11, top 10 in ties. Putting on Poa Trivialis overseed. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and jump straight to the tournament history tab. I know I like to usually do a couple of other statistics, but I don't feel well. So, your top strokes gained total player the past 5 years here at the Amex has been Sung Jae. And he's got a top 10. He doesn't have anything truly elite. No podium finishes, no top 5s. But he also doesn't have anything outside of a top 20. He's got a top 10, a T11, 2 T12s, and a tie for 18. Our defending champion is no longer on the PGA Tour. Our defending champion is John Rahm, the winner in 2022. And also not on the PGA Tour, it's Hudson Swafford. Some other players who have played very well: Patrick Cantlay, 4 for 4, 3 top 10s, including a runner-up, and a top 30 last year. Siwoo Kim, winner in 2021. Tony Finau's played well here. Adam Hadwin, Scheffler. Andrew Putnam is 5 for 5. Despite the fact that this seems to be an off-the-tee type tournament, he has had a lot of success here. Tom Hoge is all or nothing. He has a runner-up, another top 10, a couple missed cuts. Sam Burns, very, very good putter on Poa Trivialis. JT Poston and Roger Sloan, Cam Davis. So there's a look at the top players in the past 5 years here at the Amex. The other end of the spectrum, players who have not played this well: Bill Haas, 0 for 5. Nate Lashley has a top 15, but 3 missed cuts and a withdrawal, so he has not played well. The winner in your playoff at the Sony, Grayson Murray, a top 10 and 2 missed cuts. Bo Hostler not played particularly well here. Joseph Bramlett. Cameron Champ, 1 for 3. Adam Schenk, 3 for 5, but pretty poor performances overall. Troy Merritt, despite the fact that he's one of the best putters on Poa Trivialis, only 1 for 4. Peter Malnati, 1 for 5. Kevin Streelman, 1 for 4. Jason Duffner, 2 for 5. He's also a winner here in 2016. Chesson Hadley, only 1 for 5. Ben Taylor, 0 for 3. Chez Reavie, 1 for 5. So there's a look at some of the players who have not played well here the past 5 years. All right, that's a good segue. We're going to move to Microsoft Excel and take a look at the AmEx in terms of against other full field courses on the PGA Tour. And again, I want to re-emphasize that we only get strokes gained data from the stadium course. So that's why you're going to have a lot of seemingly pretty weird statistics here, where all of them are minus 20% and above. But you can see just how important the approach is relative to all of the other shot types here at the AmEx. 20% with the approach, 36% in the negative with off the tee, 38 or almost 39 with the putting. Around the green is just not a big factor at all. Moving to fairways and greens, distance seemingly, like I thought, is a fairly big deal for the players who finished in the top 30. Fairways, in fact, are up there as well. So it'll be interesting to see when we go through the prior leaderboards tomorrow if something stands out in terms of driving. But my initial thought was always in terms of driving distance, but we'll see tomorrow. Looking at the scoring, no real surprise. I mean, 13% more important Eagles here, but 25% more important in terms of the birdies. You just got to go low here. Winning scores, again, usually in the mid-20s. In terms of under par, you just got to go low here. Bogey avoidance just generally doesn't matter. You just got to go low. Speaking to the importance, at least, across the stadium course, and really most of the other courses as well, par 3s, 22% more important here. 22% more important. Par 4s, not so much, but look at the range of short par 4s. Those are still positive, especially the 350 to 4, almost 25% more important. So my best guess early in the week is probably going to be looking at 350 to 4, probably 400, 450 as well, but certainly the data is showing the par 4s, 350 to 4, are the main par 4s we want to look at. In terms of par 5s, 16% more important. So it's the par 3s and the par 5s, especially at the stadium course. Then lastly, we'll take a look at proximity. Again, 75 to 100, even though there weren't a lot of shots overall that came from that distance, it is the only proximity length that is positive in terms of in relation to the average full field course on the PGA Tour. So something to look at as we move forward tomorrow in our research for the Data Dive show. All right, before we go to the early look file, again, this is thanks to Gabe, and it's a file that he sends out all at the beginning of the year. But I want you to notice this is sorted on the ranking in terms of ease, in relation to par. So the Century plays to 4 shots under par. Look at the next 3 courses. It's all the American Express, 48, 47, and 46. The second, the third, and the fourth most easy courses on the PGA Tour are here at the AmEx. And you don't get a whole lot of Eagles. You really don't. If we sort on these Eagles, which is just off your screen, of course, if we sort on the Eagles, large as small as you got to scroll a little bit for them. They're right here, 29, 29, 25. But I wanted to emphasize again, throughout your research later this evening into tomorrow, when those odds come out first thing in the morning, really focus on players who play easy courses well. I mean, the data's right there. The second, the third, and the fourth most easy courses on the PGA Tour are here at the American Express. So thanks to Gabe, and this is the kind of information that you're able to get if you subscribe to his article. So I highly suggest you do so. He has a lot of great tools. All right, as promised, we're going to end the show off with the early look file. Let's take a look at players who have played consistently here at the AmEx, what they've performed well at. So I'm going to remove any player that has only played it once. I want to see multiple years. That way we get, we try to eliminate the outlier data. So you see Patrick Cantlay, average finish inside the top 15. He's done very well with the around the green, but most of it is in the approach. Sungjae has been more so in the putting, but his second best is approach. Siwoo, approach and putting. Tony Finau's been in the ball striking, and look at the putting. He's gained 1 per tournament, essentially. Daniel Berger, which, again, going to mimic what I said about Adrian Dumont, about Gary Woodland, about Will Zalatoris. I'm just going to wait and see where these guys are health-wise. But if you feel confident Daniel Berger, he has been a ball striker extraordinaire, specifically here at the American Express. Speaking of, Will Zalatoris, Alex Smalley, who is a pretty darn bad putter, and he's been gaining strokes on the green. Very little, but still gaining strokes. So you like to see that. If we look at, let's go to the players who have averaged a top 40. Yeah, that's 15 players. That should be enough. Off the tee here is a 0.6. We have a 1.7 in terms of approach, so 3 times the importance for the players who have consistently played the American Express the best, or well, a lot in the approach. Around the green is actually fairly high here as well. This is a 0.6, the same as off the tee. I think that's a little bit of noise. Now, around the green just generally doesn't matter here. And then lastly, putting is a 1.2, so double the importance of the off the tee. So 1.8, 1.7, so very, very important. 1.2, and then a 0.6. Moving to distance and fairways and greens, good drives. Look, you got several ways to go about it. Putnam, never going to be long. Hadwin's not long. Christian Bezadenhout is not long by any means. And they're playing pretty well here. Fairways, despite the fact that in the comparison course file, the fairways, showed 24% more important. Look here for the players that have played well consistently year over year here. You got a lot of negatives. Patrick Cantlay, Tony Finau, Will Zalatoris. So that's why I originally thought distance. But even so, the distance isn't overwhelming in terms of correlation. So good drives gained. Fairly solid, I suppose. Greens is where it's at because these greens are so small. Greens is where it's at. So any player who has played multiple years in the past 5 at the AmEx, not a single one is negative in terms of greens. So really hammer that point home. Not a single player that's averaged a top 40, again, averaged a top 40, is negative in greens gained if they've played multiple years. So really, really, really important. So that's looking like where we're going to be looking at in our research on that page view. Moving to the scoring, you see it. It's all about the birdies gained. Tony Finau, bogeys be damned. Bazenu, negative in bogeys. You have a 3.3 in the birdies gained. You've got some good numbers in the bogeys avoided. But this is only a 2.1. 7.3, 5.5, 5.5, 4, 5, 5.5. Gotta go low. Gotta go low. So there are 2 to 3 metrics I'm going to suggest that you focus on leading into your research tomorrow. Performance on easy courses, birdies gained when it's easy, probably some Poa Trivialis putting. Moving into the par 3s, 4s, and 5s. Par 3s, the 1.2 getting hurt by Roger Sloan quite a bit. You see the elite finishers here at the AmEx, they're all playing these par 3s well. They're all playing them well, so really take that into consideration as well. They're playing these par 3s extremely well. So that's a 1.2. Par 4s, it's going to be a little bit surprising. This is a 3.5. That's generally how it goes on par 4s. But for the players who have performed the best here at the American Express, it looks like it's the 400 to 450, not the 350 to 4. This is a 0.8 versus a 1.5, so almost double. And then lastly, par 5s, 2.0. So big amounts of significance in par 5s as well. Lastly, we'll take a look at proximity, see if there's any range. So the 175 to, was it 175 to 200 or 150 to 175? I apologize. I'm going to have to cheat, go look at the breakdown. This view's going to be skewed. So it's the 150 to 175 that is heavily more prominent here at the American Express, at least for the stadium course. But if we look at the 150 to 175, okay, I guess. You had a couple of negatives down here, but Siwoo's been really good from that range. Van Rooyen's been very good from that range. Berger, Smalley. Don't see much in total procs, and in fact, 75 to 100 might be a little bit something as well, too. Very small negative numbers, except for maybe Cantlay. All right, I'm going to bring back everybody in the field this week and sort it on best average finish. That is the initial research show tonight. Again, a shorter show. I apologize. I feel like death. I feel quite under the weather. I'll try to rest up tomorrow and have a lot more energy. But regardless of how I feel, I will not leave you stranded. We are going to have the Data Dive show tomorrow. And then be on the lookout for the research. I will definitely have some research posted tomorrow over on social media. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching, listening, supporting the channel. Whether that's liking the videos, commenting, subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do. Looking at in-depth sports statistics, mainly baseball and golf, helping us all try to win a little bit of money in the process. For all of the wagers you made this past weekend for the Sony, for all of the DFS contests you played this past weekend for the Sony, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.